painting dates every so often. And what we do that's so awesome is that we paint the same picture, not looking at each other's painting, and then we analyze our differences after. And so I'm going to show you the two pictures. And by the way, yesterday I was at Ronnie's house, and someone asked me what my class was about, and I said making fun of my sister, and I really wasn't lying. But I needed to make me feel sad on Tish'a BeAb, you know? Okay. But, so these are the two paintings.
Samantha.
Like what? SpongeBob.
Okay.
Two movies.
Okay. So I want you to analyze the difference in these pictures.
One of them is on the water.
One's more
one of them
creative
is
than
in
the other.
I was gonna say that one looks like it's like
Yeah.
horrible.
You just try to be creative with that.
This one looks very
More outside the box,
Yeah.
the one on the
I think
left.
they're on different.
Not about that.
Yeah, exactly.
This one looks very
One has one white sunglasses, one has
Okay. So I'll explain to you why one of us is a good person and the other person's not. And we're gonna see throughout the class why that's so.
Which one's whose? Which one's whose?
I think that's gonna be revealed at the end of the class.
You know who's whose?
Oh. Okay.
You don't
This
wanna
one's
tell?
mine and this
I
one's
knew
yours.
it. I knew it.
Guys, to make this picture, you should have brought in the clown ones.
I know. It's
Because
okay.
that you see a development. So
Yeah, I have it on mine. Yeah, anyway. So, one thing that you will notice is that one of us is much more tied to the lines, and the other one is not.
Just too free.
Hey, Ma.
Okay. So why was the Beit HaMikdash destroyed? According to like a million different classes, you look at everyone's title, what is it? Nachon, Me'od. Okay. So what is Sinat Chinam? What is baseless hatred?
You hate someone for no reason.
Okay, yes. And when do we hate people and like we feel like we have a reason?
when we did something bad to you,
Jealousy.
you feel like
Jealousy.
we
Right. Okay. So oftentimes we understand the concept of hating someone that like wrongs you, or even someone that doesn't help you up. But like, do we really understand baseless hatred? Like, when do we just hate someone for no reason?
When other people tell us to hate them.
Okay.
Or when you feel like your reason is enough and that's not baseless. Right?
Okay.
when you're following the crowd, when you're following the people that hate that one person, you just wanna be rid of them, kind of.
I wonder if we just define Samantha wrong. Like maybe it doesn't mean hating someone for no reason.
Okay. Okay, so now I want you to try to think of real hate crimes, like Nazi Germany, or racism and slavery, and what do they have in common with regards to maybe baseless hatred?
They don't see them as human. They don't see the person who they're attacking as human.
Exactly. And often, many times the hate is directed towards a group. And actually, I read a psychological study that was saying that when you hate a group, the intensity of your hate can grow without you being confronted with specific persons or contrasting information from the group. You are basing your hate on stereotypes and prejudices. If you hate an individual, your hate may be countered with empathy or a reassessment of the person when you encounter their positive side. And in fact, the study says that when researchers asked people in conflict regions to tell us stories in which they hated someone, 80% talked about groups and not individuals. So why do you think it's easy to hate groups as opposed to individuals? Another reason.
More reasons to hate them.
What do you mean?
In a group, you have all these different things going on. As one person has their own individual person, they can do certain things. Whereas a group can have more of an impact on.
Right?
Like maybe it's easier because you just hate everyone versus like hating one. I have to think about how to enunciate this a little bit better.
Yeah, how did you
Because
give your
know-
class? What did you talk about?
You say it today.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know where this is going.
I listened better than you now. Okay.
I spoke about a woman named Martha Bat-Baitus, who was very wealthy and totally disconnected with like what was going on during the Churban. Like she had no idea what was, like she told her helper.
Right, so you spoke about one person in specific.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, Emma?
I was gonna say when you're like talking about a group, it's easier to remove yourself from the individual person because you just see them as a large cluster of people. But once you look at someone as an individual and you realize that they have like their own feelings, they're their own person, and it's a lot harder to hate them.
Kind of put my thoughts into words. That was fun.
Okay, so oftentimes we don't get to really communicate with groups because we just judge them right away and put them into boxes, and we say you're different and you're worse because we're ultimately making ourselves feel superior. And so racism, Nazi Germany, and many other horrible crimes all usually involve people directing hatred towards people they might not even know, or individuals who never wronged them, but as a people or a nation are separate, different, not one of us. And that's a way you could hate someone for nothing, or for no reason, or someone you don't even know. Someone that individually never wronged you. And so what's behind this mentality? How does it connect to my drawing reference in the beginning? My painting reference.
Same thing. You don't have to like if you're hating someone, you're more like acting out in like baseless hatred with a group of other people. You're trying to fit in with those other people to make yourself look like you're part of the in crowd, and you don't want to go above and beyond just to do that one thing that could stop the baseless hatred. Maybe it's insecurity that can keep yourself within the lines.
I like that a lot.
I think with the paintings, you can look at them and you won't you can hate on one, you can love the other one, and you won't tie it to the person, but once you actually know who painted, you can't, you see it differently.
Okay. So I think one way of hating someone who might not have wronged you is by quote unquote having a set idea of how things should be. Like always drawn within the lines. And if people don't fit the mold or they're not within the lines, if you missed it in the beginning, me and my sister both paint the same picture. And we analyze our different personality traits through it. And yesterday I told someone that my class was about picking on my sister. So I didn't lie. But I'm just kidding. But so in other words, when you have a set idea of the way things should be, and if people don't fit into the mold, you're like, they're different, we don't like them. And you place them in the so-called out group. They're not within the lines, and we only draw within the lines. They don't cut it, and we don't have to be nice to them. Next. And why do you think we do that? Why would we separate ourselves from other people and
it's like tribal, it's tribalism, the fact that humans generally like to have their own cliques, and it's just another form of that, I think.
And why do we do that?
For protection, kind of, right? Because it makes us feel safer that oh, this is our group or our tribe or whatever, and then everyone outside of it is not safe. So it helps us stay protected, I think.
Yeah, there's supporters around.
Yeah, Adina?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just more we're used to the way things are, used to seeing things in a certain way, that when someone does things that are different, it's just strange to us. So it's, I guess, the only way to kind of deal with that, I guess, is to hate them, even though it might not be the right way, but I guess that's just the way people are sometimes, because they're not used to seeing something that's different. I don't know if that was said before because I couldn't hear, but...
Sorry. That was...
Maybe they don't fit into our realm.
What do you mean?
If we're used to doing certain things, they don't do what we do, and so we kind of exclude them.
Right.
Nowhere.
Gemma?
It's mostly out of fear of change and fear of people who are different, things like that.
Why do we fear that?
Because it's scary. Change is always scary. So people don't want to look at themselves and see things that they need to do to be better. So they kind of separate themselves from it.
Excellent.
This reminds me of a lot of things in essence at Hamanaglim, when they were all they were downsizing Israel because of everything that they saw, and they decided to focus on the negative. But then there was Yehoshua and there was Caleb, and they were like, no, maybe Israel is good. And then they were like, oh, let's pick on these people because they're saying something that's different from what we're saying.
Right. They were gonna stone them.
I think you're scared because you need to be on top, and if you're not on top, that's a scary position to be in. So by putting down others, you make yourself be on top.
Right. Yeah, Lauren.
Back to what Mo was saying about how change is scary. I don't know if it's so much scary as it is risky, and I think some people are more afraid of the risk than other people because some people aren't afraid of change.
What risk?
I guess the risk of it not going well, of the change not being a good change.
Okay. And where do we get from being different and an out group to change? Yeah.
If there's a group of people that's all the same, let's say, just one group of people, and then there's this person who doesn't fit very well with this group, if you let them in, you could possibly change based on their views and their outlooks on life, because it's different perspectives.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, find a way to make it inclusive for all. You know, bring people into a group, you know, look at their, you know, the positive traits.
And you're also not conforming with the group. You're the outsider. Everyone will look at you differently, so maybe you're condemned for what you're saying.
Right. I remember learning in my social psychology class that people often like people like in relationships that are similar to them because it's very validating. And like if you see them and you see that they're doing a similar thing to you, it's like, oh, like okay, maybe I'm doing something right. And so maybe when someone's doing something that's different, you could be like, shoot, like am I wrong, or maybe do I need to change? Oftentimes we want to make ourselves feel superior, and our ego gets involved.
So I feel like if there's someone in the group who sees differently and then is very smart and can convince others, I'm almost thinking about Abraham, like who was able to like change the world, you know, that he lived in, which is crazy. But you really believe in something, think about something, and you want to share it with others, so you could create change.
Right. And I think like oftentimes we do this, we don't think that we hate people for no reason, but like maybe this we do more often, that we have a set idea of how things should be, and if someone doesn't fit it, we judge them, or we kick them out, or we patronize them, and we build walls, and we create like strict lines and barriers between us, like black hat and white hat, or skirts or no skirts, or Mag and David Flatbush, wealthy, not wealthy, religious, not religious. And it's very natural for our brain to make these categorizations because we have so much information, and it just makes it easier for us. And like I think it's okay to have judgments in your mind, but I think we still need to learn how to color outside of the lines and accept people and tolerate and embrace difference, as opposed to putting them down or alienating them and causing division. And how do you think we do that? Like, how do we counter this out group mentality? Yeah.
Not being afraid to be wrong, because a lot of the time people don't want changes because they think that they're not, like, that the other person, you know, can maybe challenge whatever it is that they're doing because they're doing something different. But when you're welcoming new people, when you're welcoming different ideas, then you can kind of be able to assess yourself and be like, okay, maybe this person's right about this and wrong about this, but at least to be open to the possibility that you could be wrong about different things.
Yeah.
Respecting other people's values and their outlooks and the way that they view life as opposed to yours, and try to, in contrast to your life, make it work in order to accept the change that you're going to be going through.
Very nice. Yeah.
Look at the positives that person can offer.
Yeah.
Well, so a lot of times I feel like don't be afraid to stand up and say something, because there's always gonna be like that one person that's on one side and the other person that's on the other side. And maybe one person on the one side, the negative side, is gonna talk, and everyone who's like undecided or whatever will just follow them. Or even if people are on the other side, they don't want to go against. But if you go up and you say something, and there's like, you're not gonna be the only one that's doing that. There are gonna be people that are gonna go with you. There are gonna be people that are gonna see things the same way as you. So you shouldn't always be scared that you're gonna be the different one by letting the other person in, because there's going to be other people.
Right. And also, again, back to psychology, that were certain studies, and once one person disagreed, it was so much easier for the other people to disagree.
If I'm comfortable being validated.
Right.
It'd be hard to be the first one to say I disagree.
Yeah. How do you think we could be the first people to disagree?
self-confidence and
Yeah. You have to be confident. I mean, exactly. You have to be confident in your answer. If you're not confident in your answer, either if you think you're right or if you agree or you disagree, it's hard to do either one if you're not comfortable with like admitting that.
And how could we be confident in our
Back
answers?
up with good reasoning.
What?
Back up our answers with good reasoning.
Okay.
I like do research, and if you really feel unsure about your position, then you should just do the research and figure out where you stand.
Right. Yeah, I think if we felt more secure and confident in like how we live our lives and like live conscious, choice-filled lives, then we wouldn't be as like insecure and as like wishy-washy. And also realizing that like when you make a mistake, like it's okay, and that you're human, and then engage in self-compassion and say like, okay, this is what happened, and next time what could I do maybe better. And then also by talking to people and finding beauty in their difference. Having the humility to say that you can learn from other people. And they may not know something that I don't know. And I was going to say, yes, it's true. We don't know everything there is to know in the world. It's very shocking. We all think we know the best, and like everything that we think is right. And actually some of my like faith in God and awe of the world comes from the idea that like you could look around and everyone's so different and has so many different thoughts, feelings, and like past, present, future, and like it's crazy. And like even when I go on the train, it's like I'm so amazed by the world. And when we think about that, we can yeah, we can feel threatened.
Like look around when you're on the train. Oh my gosh, like no, you really realize the diversity of the world we live in.
Like everyone has their own story, you know?
Yes, because we're so used to being in a little bubble of like what the world is, what does everyone look like, what does everyone wear.
Yeah, so we could either feel.
and that also injures.
Yeah, whoa. Okay. We could either feel threatened and jealous that some people have this thing and I don't, or we could see every interaction with like as, wow, this is another unique individual, and I could learn about God's creation and how someone else sees reality, and maybe adjust how I see my reality. But one might argue that in Judaism, aren't we meant to like just come together and be one God-serving people and do all the same things, have the same purpose? And we could take a small tangent to discuss this. So many times we identify with Bnei Israel in the Tish'a BeAb story. And we don't really think about the Romans, but the Romans are people also. So how could they have gotten to the place that they got to of destroying and attacking such a small city of Jerusalem? And what's unique about Jerusalem? Like, where do we always go to pray? The Kotel, right, which is a wall. Right, so Jerusalem is a very nice and walled and closed city that is very separate and by itself, and therefore maybe an easy target for hate. An easy target to say they're different, they're other, I'm going to demonize them. And they're outside the lines and maybe a threat. And so maybe that's how the Romans were able to come to this small city and destroy it so negatively, so horribly. And it's much easier to demonize people with walls, and that we don't know, that we don't communicate with, and they're special and they seem to be a threat. And that's, I think, also in our interpersonal relationships, we create like strict walls and we put walls up between us and other people. Sorry. And okay. We place walls up and we say like you're different, or there's no way you can be like us, or be right, or have feelings, or reasons for doing what you do, or acting the way you act. And so that's one, like us creating walls for ourselves, and also creating walls for other people. Okay. Right. Okay, so yeah, creating walls for other people. Like, there's no way you could be like us. Like, you're just different. And you make such contrast, like, differences between people. And the other way is, like, creating walls for ourselves because our egos come in and we say, we're superior and, like, we can't let you in we can't show you our insecurities, even though we all have them. And so I should ask you, like, one of the works that we could do is, like, what walls do we put up with other people that hides our true selves? And what walls do we create for other people that don't need to be there? But something that people could argue is that, like, our walls, like, keep us protected and strong and separate from everyone else. And I'm not saying that definitely we shouldn't have borders and boundaries, and, like, I think something that keeps our community so strong is that we're, like, very together and, like, within ourselves. But at the same time, we can't, like, just be within the lines and look at other people and say, oh, they're I don't like them, or they're different, and hate on them. And I think we saw with Tish'a BeAb that they were all trying to be the same, all trying to serve God the same. And what happened? God said, no, like, this is not how I want it. You're all different, and I'm going to spread you out with all different languages, and then you could all serve me. And so the title of the class is What Are We Hoping For? And I want to, like, for me, it's hard to, like, connect with, like, what does a time with the Beit HaMikdash feel like or look like? And I think that the answer many times is unity. But unity does not mean all being the same, but rather being able to learn and accept people's differences and not trying to change who others are. And so I was actually on a hike this week, and I really love deep questions. So one question that I asked is, like, what do you think the meaning of life is? And, like, I asked this a lot. And, like, this other person said, like, I think it's different for other people, for each person. And, like, that's what Viktor Frankl says too, from Man's Search for Meaning. And I think my response at this moment, it changes every time, was I think the meaning of life and the goal for every person is to be who they are, which technically is the same thing, but it makes every single person different. And why do I think that? Because God, like, didn't create us all the same. Like, he created us all different. So, like, us trying to be like someone else, or us hiding and not embracing difference, is like us canceling out God's individuality that he created in people.
It's so funny. I'm thinking of Rabbi Joey Beck gave a class on Thursday, and he spoke about, like, the reaction when you see identical twins. I mean, it's so crazy. Like, what? There are two humans that look so similar. Because everyone is really very different, like you're saying.
Right. And, like, also, God didn't create us so that we have the same interpretations in the Torah. Like, there would be no Gemara if we didn't disagree. Or the same jobs, or the same talents, or the same ideas of how to live. And even, like, the same instrument in the orchestra. Like, we don't want to all be the same instrument. And if we impose, like, how everyone else should live, because we always think we're right, and, like, oh, this makes you happy this way? No, it can't be, because this makes me happy. Yeah.
Well, we were talking Rabbi's class before, and he was talking about, like, how all the rabbis needed to come together and have unity, and excommunicated Rabbi Eliezer, who was different, because his different view was jeopardizing the entire Jewish nation. So what if actually one person is jeopardizing the unity of a people? What do you do with that?
I think something that I have a hard time with in myself is trusting myself. And, like, I think if enough people trusted themselves, like, we're good overall, and, like, we would be able to root out the negative. That's what I think. What do you think about that? No, it's a conversation. I don't know everything. No, yes, Sarah.
I feel like it's also understanding, like, our position in the greater whole. So, like, in considering the whole story with Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer, and, like, that whole situation and how the rabbis came together, like, that's also understanding the time in which there was this unity among the Jewish people, let's say, where they did have the credibility and the ability to join together and say, we see this more, like, objective truth, even though we're having different opinions, that we could say, oh, we're, like, going according to us. And I feel like that also relates to, like, yes, having the confidence in your answer, but then I feel like for us today, it's also, like, understanding, like, what is our position, and, like, the confidence which we could have in ourselves could also come through understanding, like, maybe I don't understand this, or, like, this might seem negative to me, but let me go in and explore that whole side, and then reevaluate, and then that could also even elevate our own understanding to a new level.
Right. I like that a lot. Because I think in life we shouldn't be afraid of things so much, as opposed to like looking at it, staring it in the eye, and assessing it. And then, because if we're so afraid of it and we don't want to acknowledge it, then like maybe our position is wrong, or maybe like we're just so afraid and we can't take it. But I think if we like look at it in the eye, and like then it will just only strengthen our position. Yeah. Oh. Okay. And then I just wanted to pull on what Merle was saying before, because I was reading an article. And it was saying that it's much, much easier to draw the lines and hate others because we don't have to focus on ourselves. And like there's a Pirkei Avot that like these people will be out of the world, and like one of them was hating people, or like they won't have their own lives. And I think if we like focus so much on other people's lives, then we're not living. Like it's not our lives anymore. And that's how like hating others could take us out of the world.
What do you mean by that?
I think, like, I should find the exact Pirkei Avot, but it was saying that, like, one second, that, like, your life will be taken away if you hate others.
If you focus all your energy on hating one person, that will.
Right, and I was saying that, like, if we just focus on hating others, we're not living our lives. We're just living the lives of that person as a hater.
Right.
Like, it's so tied to them, it's not our lives.
I mean, you could literally see that with Haman, where it was saying he was like second in command of the whole empire, and he was like such a lofty guy, but he couldn't even enjoy it or accept it because he hated Mordecai so much. And then in the end, that's exactly what happened. He got taken out of the world, and he was, hanged on a tree, and like that was it. So, I mean, it's like a literal example of what you're saying.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think it's true that there's this domino effect where once you think one bad thought about the person, it's so much easier to think more and more bad things about that person, and it just kind of rolls. So for me, what I do is if I feel like, oh, I don't particularly like someone or whatever, someone rubs me the wrong way, I'll just try to think of a compliment for them. And then it kind of just like stops it in its tracks, and I won't really go further than like that initial, okay, bad feeling for 2 seconds, and I won't really feel that like intensity.
Right. I love that because that's like very practical and very useful for like our everyday. What?
It's a good one.
Oh, it was hung.
No, it's hang.
No.
And I think just in conclusion, we're all made different, and I think the goal is to like be the most of who we are, and not try to change people and control everything and want everyone to be like us. Even though, yeah.
I also feel like when you speak to them, like you realize they're human, and like it's
Right.
you have to, and you're like, how could I hate them?
Right. And sort of that, like everyone has a story.
And that's why it's easier in groups.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Emma, you got this. And when we take the individuality, which is what happens in the hate crimes, like you were saying before, we're not making them human. We're like, I think, sort of taking the godliness out of them, like taking out like who they are. And many times because of challenges to our ego and like our security, like, shoot, am I gonna have to change? Like, what is this thing? It's very hard for us, and we create these walls for ourselves and the walls that we put on others, and we could target hate much easier. But really, obviously, love makes the world a better place, and difference is amazing, and it just pushes us. And like, imagine there was no competition in the world, and like in the market, like we would just have the same. I don't think we would get to the same high level. Like even when I play ping pong sometimes, like okay, when I play a harder competitor, I play so much better, which shouldn't be the case. Like I wish I could play with my same strength all the time, but it really does push me.
It motivates you.
Yeah.
If you wanna,
And I would say that what we're hoping for the Beit HaMikdash is a world of unity, indifference, and tolerance, and bridges, and acceptance, and sometimes drawing outside of the lines. That's it.
I'll take Brad's car.
Thanks.
But yeah, Lauren.
I was gonna say, but I didn't realize you were ending, so I don't really want to say.
No, say it. We have 12 minutes, so you're good.
Okay. Now I forgot.
I was saying that what we're hoping for with the Beit HaMikdash is unity, indifference, tolerance, bridges,
I lost
different.
it, but I'll tell you if I remember.
Okay.
I really had, it just, I don't know, it's like this like painting experiment, we painted before this, like during the winter, we each painted clowns, and it's so interesting. I was looking through my phones and I was trying to find it. For you, that person, like when we painted those clowns, it's very clear who painted each. I don't know if I shouldn't really give it away. You should see the picture, you see. And it was interesting because, maybe I should just describe it to you.
Why? Yours was so cool.
Mine was it took me like 2 hours to make. It took me about a half an hour. I like made a rainbow in a very specific pattern throughout the clown's body, and I was line by line by line. And Samantha's was like this beautiful like red and like fiery like colors. And I was trying to work on myself to try to like think outside of the lines. I promise to see the development would be very interesting. I really yeah, because Samantha's thinking out of lines, sticking into the lines. You could really work on yourself, like whatever it is, and it really you see it over time.
Right. And Victoria's definitely not what I'm describing in this class.
But I'm also trying to connect to the class too. That like in terms of like getting out of the lines, it's possible. Like changing yourself.
Yes.
So which one is first?
This is second.
This is the second one.
But any other comments? How can we make this more practical and like apply it to our lives? Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but like the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because there are so little people that actually know what's happening, and they think Instagram is a reliable historical source for their, credibility and their knowledge. And they think that if you post the Palestinian flag and say, oh, this apartheid, whatever, then you're gonna get like, yeah, Eid Mubarak, whatever, like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, if you actually had done the research to see what's happening from both sides, each perspective, you would know what you're talking about, you would, and then based on your bias, that's how you would support it. Based on knowledge and bias. So you need to know what you're talking about before you're actually gonna go and support the side that you think is the right side to support.
Right.
You don't want to support something based on your bias. You want to support something based on the facts.
Yeah, it's based on research and bias, what you think is the right side to support after you've done your research.
That is not bias, that is just prior knowledge.
Sorry, before you go, I apologize. At 2 p.m., we'll be showing a presentation, SCA presentation for the gym and auditorium. The gym and auditorium both be shown at the same time. At 2:20, then it'll be Rabbi Besser in the gym and Rabbi Joey Dweck in the auditorium. So at 2 o'clock, go into the gym, but if you can't get in the auditorium, you want to. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Hey.
Big turn.
You see the wrong way, Samantha.
Oh, wow.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It's okay.
Also, it's so cool.
And it's really different.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh my God, it's a whole
But you see how like crazy I am.
Yeah, I like both actually.
I try to like work on myself. You see how it's different?
Yeah.
One is better.
Yeah, these are the two things.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Guys, do it with the sibling. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
What is joining? Where do you get
My little sister
Just
has
print it out from online.
So is it already there and you just fill it in with paint?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to look at each other. It's like if she's getting up to get water, I have a thing.
Right, there's,
Samantha, I wanted to add something on like being different. And I know like a lot during class we were saying like staying in the lines or going out of the lines. I just have
our teacher.
Like being different, like we're not all the world to be the same, right? We don't want like a world full of robots. So I think just embracing difference, like and everyone's thing that makes them unique, that's what makes us all special, right? Why would you want to be in a world where everyone's full of the same? Like I don't want to be in a world full of me, you know? So I think that like whatever everyone has to offer is a good thing. Like your painting is amazing and your sister's painting is amazing. They're not both like, oh mine is better and hers is worse because I stayed in the lines and she went out of the lines or vice versa. So some people follow the line, some people don't, and that's what makes them special, you know, or whatever thing that makes them unique.
That's true. That was a great sum up and a good way of getting me out of trouble, leader. I know, just kidding. Any more comments? We have 6 minutes. Yeah.
I
I think,
like that.
yeah.
We could tie that into the Romans, like how they saw a wall and that's how they felt hatred. So I like this idea of embracing people's differences. So maybe that could be said as embracing people's walls, right? Everybody has their walls that makes them contained in who they are and makes them different. And so sometimes we speak to someone and we find out they have a different political leaning or religious leaning, and we might immediately pull back because we see a wall, but instead maybe we can say, oh, there's a story behind this person and there's a story behind this wall, like the subway. And we can embrace that and help them protect their wall, maybe learn about that. And I think in turn, maybe they'll do that with us.
Nice.
Yeah, Lauren.
I remember what I was going to say before. So it had to do with ping pong, because you were saying that when you play against someone who's a harder competitor, then you are a better player. And I realized for myself in my own life that whenever I have a more challenging teacher or more challenging person expecting something from me, I rise to that. And it's a psychological thing. When you have a higher expectation of you, then you will rise to it. You might not make it there, but you're definitely going to rise higher than you would have been rising before. So I feel like it's important to not just challenge yourself with an outside competitor, but like challenge yourself and like be that person for yourself to be like, no wait, I can expect more of myself, I can do more than this.
I love that.
Amen.
And I think that's what we could all do. Like today, I think we should envision like what kind of, like who is our role model of ourselves? Like where do we want to be? And then like writing that down. Like not just thinking about it, and thinking about like how we could get there. Or like, right, like what things like do we want to improve on, or what things like are we proud of ourselves for? And like Victoria was saying, like what strengths do we have that we could share with others? And like I always ask myself this, like, 'cause there's always so much, like it's very exciting to me to like be able to realize like, wow, I have so much to give or so much opportunity, and like what is so special about me that I could really share with others? And any other comments?
It's also interesting because I've realized like if you're playing in ping pong, you don't have to play really well. You're gonna win. Just like go fast. So you don't need to expend so much energy to win. It makes sense. But if you're playing like someone else, then
Right. But do I want to like make myself worse? Maybe I'm being nicer to you.
a few points. Okay, fine.
No, but it's a good point. Yeah, I guess I don't think that we always need to like be so strict on ourselves and push ourselves to the highest limit of like, and like be so hard on ourselves. Nancy, were you gonna say something?
No, I don't know if this like really relates, but you were saying like finding things that sort of we could give back, you know, and like our strength in a way. So did you ever take a personality test? Like you know those really, so it was the best thing. It was the best thing I did. So then you get a list. So for those who don't know, it's like
okay, guys. So two pieces of homework. One, thinking about like your better version of yourself, and two, taking. I'm telling you, the personality test is really great.
And then it basically it's 100 questions, and then they rank like I think there's 24 personalities. So there's 16. So then it tells you like your strengths. So like I look at my like top 3 strengths. I literally have it. I think I took it like 2 years ago. I have it like taped on my wall, like in my room. No, seriously. And like I started incorporating like my strengths from that, and like doing like things, and like that would make me feel better. And it's like my way of giving back. And like I really, guys, it's the best. Even if like you don't like you.
Also practically, I feel like at parties or at events in the summer, like learn about people. Like really, like there's so much to ask and be curious about, and like a lot of times we just think that we need to have small talk, but like you don't. Like you really just be curious about the other person, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. If I have that mindset, I'd probably go very differently and just trying to create small talk.
That's true.
Let's do it.
And thank you all for thank you all for coming. It really means a lot, and I hope you have an evening meaningful fest.